Good evening and welcome to our Tuesday night show tonight. Tonight, we are going to be looking at things that are going to help you when it comes to dealing with your clients. We're going to be digging into that a little bit. Rick, Addy, and I are going to be talking a little bit about that tonight. So when we're done tonight, you're going to have some ideas and some thoughts that are going to help you when it comes to connecting with your brides, your couples, and different things. We'll be right back with the show. Good evening and welcome to tonight's show from DJNTV, Disc Jockey News TV. Tonight's show is brought to you by Electra Voice, DJ Event Planner, DJ Trivia, Odyssey Innovative Designs and Cases, NLFX Professional, Promo Only, and the DJNTV Insiders.
DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
All right, we are back, and tonight we are going to talk about some of the cool things out there that are going to help make a difference when it comes to working with your clients. I'm joined tonight by Rick Addy. Good evening, Rick.
Good evening, John. Pleasure to be here.
And for those who are wondering, my northern accent is only going to be surpassed tonight with your a little bit more northern accent.
A little bit. Similar weather, but London, Ontario. Geographically, simplest way to put it, we're halfway between Detroit and Toronto.
So actually, you're probably farther south than I am. I'm thinking.
Not quite as up there, but yeah.
Yeah, that's so weird. Yeah, we're Canadian. We live south of you. That's funny. But tonight we're going to talk a little bit about things that make a difference with your clients. And Rick, as we were talking before we started before the show, there we were talking really the foundation of a lot of what we're going to be discussing tonight really comes down to trust and building that. So kind of bring us up to speed for those who don't understand why we'd even be using the word trust when it comes to building these events for our clients.
Right. Well, in my experience over, I hate to add it all up, but it's getting well over 30 years.
Over 10 years. We'll go with that.
Yeah, okay, let's do that. I like that one. Yeah. When I think back to my own experience of clients, either personally doing them or when I was running multi-op, having multiple clients, the best clients we had were the ones who trusted us the most. So we took time to try and find out what their expectations were, what their concerns were, how we could help them. We did, I looked into, figuring out if mom was uptight about music, because that's what they told me, then let's talk about mom's music. And, getting them to understand that we're not just want your date and we're going to come and this is what we do and this is what we bring and we're going to play music and it's going to be a great night. No, we want you to feel like we understand exactly what you're wanting, what your family's all about, and putting that all together with music and creating a great night. And, early in my career, I realized you've got to have people trust you. If they don't trust you, doesn't matter how honest you are, how 100% right you are, there's always that little bit in the background going, well, I hope it's a great day, or I hope they, show up, or whatever horror stories you ever hear about DJs. But you have to alleviate that long before you ever get to the event.
So when you're talking about trust, is that something that, in your experience, that trust is something that is given and then until proven wrong? Or is it something that most people are coming in now and they're kind of suspect until you have a track record with them?
I think I don't think they give it to you directly. I've had probably the most common comment I've gotten from clients. It was when they've come to book. If we've maybe met at a show or at an event, and then we've had a sit down, and you get the call afterwards saying, yeah, we want to move forward and we want to book you. Often the comment came back is, we like the way you talked about the day and listened to what we had to say. So right there, that tells me that, right, now I have some trust from them because they've talked to me, they've gone and sat down and talked amongst themselves, and they've decided that he gets us, right? And we're going to put trust in our day in him and his company, and go from there. And so that's what
trust?
I've seen. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. So is that trust? Is it because of you listening and doing that kind of active listening, or is it because you're listening and giving them solutions to problems?
I think it's a combination of both. But I think listening is first.
Okay.
If you read some of the best sales books that you can pick up, they say your most important tool is your ears, and keep your mouth shut. They put it bluntly. And the more you learn to listen, which I had to learn. There's days I wanted to get out everything about what was great and why we were better. And when I finally got to the point where, you know what, I know we do a great service, but I want to hear what the customer's interested in, because they may not know anything about us.
Sure. Or
they may not know anything about what makes a good DJ. So let them tell you what their vision of their day is in their own words. If you listen carefully, then you can interpret it and give them, as you say, advice. Could be advice, could be answers, could be suggestions. My favorite is giving them suggestions on things that have nothing to do with DJ.
Give me an example of that.
Maybe they're worried whether they should, have speeches during the meal, or whether they should wait till the end of the meal and do their speeches at the end. And one of the things I'll say, well, I think you should actually talk with your caterer and discuss, because they'll know what your meal is like. They'll know the timing of the meal, and perhaps there will be some spots where it would be perfect. Maybe after your salad, but before the main course, we may have a gap there because of numbers, etc.
Right.
Of serving. Let's maybe, why don't we fill in something? Let's keep the event rolling and keep your guests interested.
So when you're asking your questions and things, specifically let's go into your example with the toast and such. Do you approach it more from ask the caterer, or here's some things of why this would work or why it wouldn't work? Or do you go and ask questions where they can basically answer their own questions, or help them to think their way through the process by asking additional questions to help them see different angles, and in essence having them again answer their own questions?
Yes. I think it's when you hear what they're asking, and when you're not clear, asking them again, why are they asking you that?
Sure.
Why do they have a concern about that point, whatever it is? Maybe they don't want. I can remember one that took me aback a bit, because I'm someone who uses the microphone. My belief was, if you don't use the microphone, but you have a great personality, how does your crowd know that? And I had a client that said, I don't want the DJ to use the microphone.
Right.
Well, I had to find out what that was all about, because I don't know if I can DJ without using the microphone.
Yeah, for sure. We had those days years ago.
Yeah, and it boiled down to, they were at an event, and the guy was on the microphone as much as he played music, and that was their greatest fear. So once we discussed that out in the open, and I explained why we use the microphone and how we use the microphone, they were fine with that.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So
really,
you don't want to just take it black and white what they say. You want to delve into why they're telling you certain things.
yeah, because they're as in that situation, if they would have just come in and said, Rick, we don't want a DJ who's going to be on the microphone. And of course, you're going to immediately think, well, this isn't the client for me.
Yeah.
But asking that clarifying question would definitely give you a much better picture, and then find out that it's something you can work with, and it's like, oh yes, this is good example.
Exactly.
Good example. So building this trust, is this something that takes? Obviously, it isn't something that can happen immediately. Yes, there's going to be some given because of who we are. Is this something though that you feel that after 2 meetings or 2 conversations, 3 conversations, that you can kind of feel like, okay, I have their trust now? Or where's that watermark where you are like, yeah, I feel that they're trusting me?
I think somewhere in there, depending on what your formula is for, just meeting with a client, then booking them, and then how do you, like, if it's a client where you're, for example, if it's a client that you don't see other than when you first book them, maybe they're out of towners, won't be back in town till the wedding, then what you should be doing is just keeping in touch with them. Not just when they ask you a question, but just saying, hey, I've done things like sent an email 4 months out saying, looking forward to it. Here, I found an article on something, and I'll send them a tidbit. Or I've got tips and ideas that I keep on my computer, and I might just send something out just to keep that contact with them. If they're a local one, maybe we try to make sure that we have a meeting sometime maybe 4 months out, and then a phone call or an email the week of, just to tie up loose ends and tell them, reassure them we haven't forgotten about you. So I think from when you first meet them to the last dance, you have to continually communicate, and it changes as the process goes. So I even pull this into during the event. Even though I've got it all spelled out, I have no concerns about my info and my timeline and everything else. I'll do things like I will actually, with all my clients, once dinner starts, I'll go up and ask them how they're doing, how their meal is. Anything changed? No, great. Well, I'll be here if you need me. And then I go back to my setup. And, or we know we're going to do speeches. Like one client I had that we were doing speeches throughout dinner. We had 3 different time frames between meals. I actually I went back to the head table each time to say, okay, so this is our second set of speeches. Are we ready? Look at the person at the head table. Are you ready? No, I got to go to the washroom, or, I got to get my notes.
Right.
Okay, great. So instead of just being at my desk and looking, okay, the last table got served. Now I'm calling, Barb up for her speech. I go and make sure they're ready, then come back. So little things like that they just reinforce with your client you're in tune and you care about their event.
So let's talk about you've gained your trust and such by that point, but we both have heard stories about times when DJs have lost the trust of a client, and basically it was either all over or it was going to be a negative experience.
Yeah,
I think an easy one. You were talking about your communication and how you're talking to them, and you have contact and different things. Obviously, the opposite of that, if you're not communicating, I've run into that where brides are calling me and saying, "Hey, I can't get a hold of my DJ. I don't think they're going to show up," and they come to me. Have you heard of other situations for DJs who are just getting into this and they're like, "Okay, so what can I not do to blow it?" Really?
Yeah.
Anything that jumps out at you that would be kind of that red flag thing that they shouldn't do?
I think the thing, especially what's dawned on me over the last maybe 7 to 8 years, is getting back to, if your client calls you because they got a question, which is something I also throw out to clients. You have a question about anything, use me as a resource.
Yep.
May not have to have anything to do with DJing per se, but send me a question. I'll get you an answer. But when they contact you, you need to get back to them as quickly as you can. I don't know how many times I'll think, oh my goodness, this came in 8 hours ago. I missed it. And I get back to them, and the first thing they say is, well, thanks for getting back to me so quickly.
8 hours later, and you're
You
like,
know? Whereas I'm thinking, oh, I've blown it.
Yeah.
You know, I've opened that door, that crack in the door of trust, and no, it's just another reinforcement that you got back to them. So for new guys or people that are fresh to the industry, you keep in touch with them and get back to them as quickly as you can. Don't think of it as a nuisance. You know?
For sure, but yeah, in this day and age, with that instant communication between text and messenger and whatever else, that was a good tip there as far as helping to build that trust and maintaining that trusting relationship is definitely part of it. I think another spot that is attitude when it comes to what we are and what we do. I mean, there's so many different things with what could be breaking that trusting relationship. So for those of you who are out there and you're like wondering, what could be, basically, I think it goes back to the kindergarten thing that you want to treat others like you would like to be treated.
Exactly.
And I think that's probably the best way to kind of say it. And we could have endless examples of bad and endless examples of good, but the treating others as we'd like to be treated. Once we've developed that trusting relationship, and we want to be able to create something, how are you able to get that information? I mean, obviously they're trusting you, they're giving you some information, but how do you, in essence, harvest the information to know what you can now then use to create?
Right. I'm a big believer that you don't just take information and go, okay, I've got my marching orders and I'll pull it off fantastically. You need to use your skill and your experiences to dig further. Just like the example of, I don't want you to talk on the microphone. When someone says, what's an example I'm common here is there's ethnic background to the families.
Okay.
So you ask the couple, so, you're Portuguese or you're Italian or whatever, and what about playing some of that music? Well, if you just play a handful of this, that'll be enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll always say, well, if you don't mind, I'd like you to go ask your mom and dad, because it could be tradition that younger couples aren't always in tune with. Sometimes they are, sometimes not. How important the tradition of certain songs are in their ethnic background that have to be played, and
Sure.
maybe not even really know them. I've had that too. So when you involve parents in that type of example, you'll honestly get a little more information, and that's experience. Like, first time someone goes and does an ethnic wedding and doesn't dig into it, they're going to get the usual, where'd you get this music, or why aren't you playing more of it?
Right.
This music's crap. Here's some real music on my phone. You want to avoid that. You don't want that at the event. So you should be the one that's digging a little harder, like little flags that go off, finding that out. Well, we only want a few. Well, okay, great. When do you want them? Do you want them in the first half hour? Do you want 3 or 4 for each half hour for the first 3 hours and then we're done? Like, how do you want them in the night? So there's even more steps to it. So thinking on your feet about how this is going to work and what's the best way to do it. Mm-hmm. Then you can relax. I find with that, you now can relax as a performer because you're confident in, yes, I'm playing some ethnic music tonight, and I'm to play no more than 3 or 4 at a time, and I'm to play, 3 or 4 different times in the night I'm supposed to put it in.
Sure. And,
right?
And you've got that already set up in advance, and you're good to go with that.
Yeah.
What about personalities? Obviously, every couple is different, and every couple has, some have more of an outgoing personality, some have a little more reserved. How do you gauge that, and how do you adjust to that? Because that can be, from my standpoint, I find it to be a really difficult thing. And really what we're kind of talking about is creating and making that unique event for that couple.
Right. Now, this is an area where, until you've probably done enough sales yourself, it could be a bit of a struggle, but eventually you're going to come around and realize that you need to maybe just take in, as well as what they're saying, just kind of take in how they are, like you were saying. I can remember a couple I had, he was a teacher, and I love teachers, But I can honestly say, if you get a teacher as a client, they're going to want to dot every I and cross every T and maybe almost micromanage you, because that's just where a lot of teachers are.
Mm-hmm.
But if you know that, if you've asked, what do you do for a living or things like that, and listen to how they talk, if someone's a matter-of-fact person, then don't give them a flowery description of how the day is going to go. Maybe save that for later. And if you got a matter-of-fact person, then give them the matter-of-fact answers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're always set up an hour ahead of time. We always pre-test. That's just the things that they want to know. Oh, so it goes this. That's that person. Another person goes, oh, I want the best dance there's ever been, a great party. So now you want to come back and talk to them in a way that you understand, and get excited and go, well, what's your favorite group? Oh, I love playing that. I love playing their music. That's fantastic.
Right.
Did you see the one where oh, yes, I did. Right. So you let them, again, going back to that first point we made, if you're listening to them, they set you up.
Mm-hmm.
They'll give you the clues. If you hear them, they'll give you the clues on how to approach them.
And I think one of the questions, and I would guess you're asking a variation of this, is kind of finding out, what is important. Is it that off the hook party? Is it that family time? They want to have that moment where the whole family's together and they can go, what that is, that's important to them. And then designing around emphasizing those types of moments, maybe not just that moment, but those types of moments, which for some couples, I've had some where there was one thing, one particular one, a bride had a dress that her grandmother made, and it was a beautiful sequin gown, and she wanted, at introductions, she walked in and the light had to hit her at the exact moment. That was her wedding day, right there.
Wow.
One moment, that's it. And once we could hit that, and it was early in the conversation when she was on the phone, she goes, my dress is really important, and can you make it so that I have spotlights hitting my dress? That's how she started the phone call off. And it's like, yes, I can.
Yes.
Now, tell me more about why your dress is so important. So, we had this beautiful story. When I get to the venue, they were ticked off. This bride is such an egomaniac. She wants her dress to be like the thing of the day. It's like, well, you know the story, don't you? Well, yeah, she wants lighting on her dress because her dress is that important. Do you know why it's important? Never asked the question.
No.
Now
that's a great story.
Yeah, and so we knew that the grandmother who had passed away was very important. We found out that grandmother, one of her favorite songs was Waltz Across Texas. By just asking those questions and such, and because I had built up that trust you're referring to, they shared. And all of a sudden we could do a later in the evening, and we're going to send, I don't remember if it was Elsie or some of what her name was, but we're going to send this out to Grandma Elsie. This is a special song, and we'd ask you to come on out and join Bethany and Tom on the dance floor for this tribute song going out to Grandma Elsie, who made this incredibly beautiful wedding gown. And everyone claps and they come out.
Fantastic.
You
could do no wrong after those 2 points.
Yeah, and that was her day. Not only did she have her moment when the lights hit her, but then she had that secondary moment, and it was really about customizing.
Yeah.
Now, in that,
I have one point, if I could. Kind of emphasizes it's a whole. You got to look at the whole day. You got like the whole event, and it's not just okay. We're at the party now. We get to the party. Which, hey, don't get me wrong. I love a great party. I love a high energy dance, but I had a wedding that was all Dutch. And they were here's the request. So we got through the dinner. Some Dutch do skits, so we had skits.
Mm-hmm.
But also part of that night was an entire hour of socializing.
Okay.
Dinner was done,
but
they didn't want to start the dance.
They wanted it after. Yes, I've had that.
But I tell you what, that dance was fantastic once we got to it. So, sometimes it's not all about, okay, that's done. It's out of the way. Okay, I want to get playing dance music. Well,
not quite.
Maybe not, yeah.
And that was a great example of, as an experienced entertainer, that sometimes the success of our event, most of the time it's on the dance floor, but sometimes it was creating that atmosphere where they could enjoy the conversation, but there was enough background music so that if there was that uncomfortable pause where it's quiet, the room isn't deadly quiet. There's just a nice
That's right.
acoustic going on. And then you were able to play some music so they could tap their toe, and they were getting themselves ready. And when you were ready to open that dance floor, they were ready to go with you. So
That's right. And knowing that I had a time where I could then go to dancing, that last 20 minutes, the tempo and the energy, I started putting more energy into my background music.
yeah, and building that. When a person is asking those questions and doing things like that, and being able to create unique things around the bride and groom, how are the guests, who are generally, some of these are potential future clients for us, or at least future referrals, what kind of a response are the guests giving you when it comes to these type of events?
Honestly, I for the most part, if it's going well and you've been in tune with the event, so I always like to say you should have energy in an event from cocktail till the end of the night. It's different levels of cocktail or energy, but you want to keep it going. And if you've done that, and maybe there are a couple things that, if you think about it, okay, I'm a guest and I'm sitting out here. I have no clue what your planning's been and what your conversations have been. Then perhaps that's when you use the microphone instead of your music to say, this is what we're doing. Or like when you did the dedication for grandma, why are you playing this song? Nobody likes this song. But because of why you said it, that impacts your crowd. So I give people a lot of credit. If you give them enough info, they understand. There's always those, I hate to say, but there's always those idiots at the party that all they care about is what they want.
Yeah.
They don't care why you're doing it. But for most people, my favorite comments are from people who didn't come up all night, and on the way out, they say something about a small thing that you weren't really sure anybody noticed. Right?
Nice.
And that, I love the way you played a variety for everybody until it was mostly young people or something like that. Right? So you get that by being prepared, reading your crowd, obviously, because we don't know until the dance starts just exactly how it's going to go. But
Yes.
The more info, there's no such thing as too much info. So, and gathering information, you should always be gathering information even during the event. Someone says something during a speech about rocking it out at the cottage with their friends to X group.
Yep.
And it's not in your pre-list, you go, oh, let me make a note of that. Yep, I'm playing that song later.
Yeah.
Right? And invariably someone goes, how did you know that? I was listening.
Yeah, paying attention and in many cases, knowing which questions to ask and which questions to ask the clarifying questions is really helps. And you used the statement earlier, kind of that you feel like you're kind of reading the couple like a book where you have such a great understanding of their desires for the day and their personalities and what they're looking for and how the desired outcome, that it really helps just bring it all together.
Yes. And I think you can also advise them too. My favorite thing to tell all my clients, whether they get it or they don't get it till maybe we talk a little more, is their wedding's the most mixed party they ever go to. So what's that mean? Someone will say, oh, well, yeah, but what's that mean? Well, it means that maybe grandma's not going to dance more than 3 songs. But if I play 3 songs that she enjoys, that makes her night.
Yeah.
Your uncles and your aunts, they love some country, you hate country. I get that. But if I play a couple here and a couple here, they'll feel included. When you're ready to dance, I won't throw country on. Also, I've got stuff I know you want to dance to. And even little things like that. You get a list of 10, 15 favorite songs from your bride and groom. When are you playing those? When she's at the bar, out having a smoke, or when she's already on the dance floor?
Yes, precisely.
Yeah. Regardless of whether it mixes, sometimes we go get into things like all the rage about beat mixing. It's got to go with this. But if your bride just got on the floor at the end of a certain song, and you really haven't had a chance to play some of her favorites, I think you better find a way to drop one or two of her favorites, even though it doesn't go with what you just did.
Yeah. Yep. You got to be creative sometimes.
Yeah, so that she can say, "You played my music. I love you."
Exactly, and that's an important thing.
Yeah.
We talked in all of this about creating and making the difference and such, and having our events basically be kind of a standout moment to the bride and groom. We haven't talked about gear.
Okay.
We haven't talked about this side of it. And as you and I were talking beforehand, DJs sometimes kind of default to talking about that. Why is that not important?
Don't get me wrong. Gear, good quality gear is important, but they're your tools. They're not, and customers, if you ask every customer for the next 5 months if they've had someone do work for them, and they say yes, I can guarantee you not one of them is going to ask that plumber, carpenter, landscaper, mechanic what tools they used. They don't care.
Yeah, maybe they don't.
What they want. I want my toilet fixed. I want my lawn cut. I want my car run. So in that regard, I mean, some clients do ask, and I'll say, well, I use all professional gear. Some of the brands you may not know because they are more on the professional, not the consumer side of brands. But I trust all my gear. And once you say something along those lines, you shouldn't really worry too much about impressing your client with the gear. You should, what more so gear would be like, well, in your case, in your hall, because of the thing, I always bring an extra speaker and put it at the back of the hall. Well, why do you do that? Well, it's just too long a hall. And if I try to cover the back guests, especially during speeches, with just front end sound, it's not going to sound that you won't be able to understand it.
Correct. Yeah.
So showing your expertise of using your gear, I think, is more important than telling them what gear you have.
And that's a great example because I've got a venue that I play quite often. That is that long, narrow hall. And generally the conversation starts out is that, when we're talking the toasts and we're doing the walkthrough, and we want to make sure that everybody can hear the toasts. And in order to do that, we're going to end up having speakers on both ends of the room. And then
Yes.
Why? Well, it's because when we have the sound that way, things go better. But it started out talking about that, their desire, they want everyone to hear that moment of their toast or their thank you, that important moment. They want everyone to be able to share that with them. Great. In order to do that, we're going to need this. The bride, I'm in that same room, and I was talking to a bride, and she goes, I want this room to be I want it red. I just want to have everything have a soft red glow. Can we do that? Yes, we can. We can make this whole room glow in a nice red color. And if we want to do some highlights here and there, we can certainly do that. Oh, that sounds great. I didn't have to go and say, oh, I've got 20 of the battery powered, the LED gigawatts that are going to be. No, it was, she had what she wanted. And instead of me saying, oh, I'm going to put up lights all around the room, we're going to make this room glow red, just the way you want it. Using her words in that. And again, that's getting back to that, what we started out talking about. Listening is so important. If there's one thing that, getting across to younger DJs who are just starting out, so critical.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you'll get your moments to play music, but if you want to be popular and you want to build a clientele that helps you get more work, because if you want to be busy, you have to have clients who get you work.
Yeah, very true.
Word of mouth, etc. And you never know who's listening. Getting back to the satellite speaker, I did an event before Christmas, and I knew the hall already. And same thing, it wasn't a request of the bride that I want people at the back of the room to hear. I already knew if I bring in an extra speaker, put it near the back area where they had cocktail tables and then the bar, then I can cover the room the way I want. I'm not going to. And at the end of the night, I got a thank you from the bartender. And I said, well, you're welcome. And I said, I appreciate that. He goes, yeah, so many guys bring in 2 speakers, throw it all from the front, and by the time it gets to the back to the bar here, our ears hurt. He says, everything sounded great. and it was nothing more than one speaker with a wireless connection to the front system. That's all it was, to get compliment and get people to notice. So sometimes you got to use your own experience. It's not being told what to do, but thinking it through and going, how can I make this better?
Yeah.
How can I make it enjoyable, and how can I impress people that they had a great time?
For sure.
Right?
How do I have a great time? That's the ultimate goal for virtually every wedding. I don't know if I've ever had a couple call and say, yeah, we want to have a crappy time at our wedding. Can you help us? They've never said that. And how are they going to do that? And it's using some of the tools we have, but they're not interested in buying those tools. They're just interested in buying that great time.
That's right.
And that's what it's all about. So good stuff tonight. Good chatting tonight, Rick. If people want to get in touch and had some questions or thoughts or something, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
They could reach out to me. I'm on Facebook, so they could get to my Facebook page, Pro MC DJ Entertainment. If they search it, it'll come up. That's probably the easiest way. If they give me a shout out that way. If they want to contact me via email, they can email me directly at Rick, last name's Addy, ADDY, at iCloud.com. So Rick Addy at iCloud.com. Always happy to share, answer questions. Yeah.
Nice. That sounds great. Rick, thank you for your time tonight and your thoughts and such. It was a great conversation. Gang, in about 20-some minutes, we're going to be back with our second show tonight. Tonight, Brian and I are going to be getting together. We haven't been together for over a month, it seems now. But we're going to come in tonight, and we're going to talk a little bit about, we've got all sorts of things. And one of the things we're going to dig into is the Fire Festival, that whole Netflix thing that just went on. We're going to be digging into that tonight for you. So should be a good show. Rick, once again, thanks for being on tonight.
Thanks, John.
We'll be back
Appreciate it.
Bye, everybody.
Bye now.